What if the key to protecting your brain and maybe even slowing neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's wasn't found in a pill, but in what you eat? Today's guest has spent her entire career studying the connection between metabolic health, cognitive decline, and chronic illness. And what she's discovered could change everything you think you know about how we age and how much control we actually have. Welcome to the Feel Better, Live Free podcast brought to you by Thinlicious. I'm your host, Ruth Sukup, and here we'll talk about everything from the science of weight loss to practical tips for making your health a priority in the midst of a busy life. It's a little bit nerdy, a little bit funny, and a little bit revolutionary. So buckle up, friend, because it's about to get real. Hey there, and welcome back to the Feel Better, Live Free podcast. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ruth Sukup, and I am the founder of Thinlicious and the creator of the Thin Adapted System, as well as the New York Times bestselling author of 7 books. And today we are chatting with the incredible Dr. Melanie Tidman, a true pioneer when it comes to connecting the dots between chronic illness, cognitive function, and nutrition. With more than 45 years of experience in occupational therapy, educational psychology, and health science, Dr. Tidman has helped thousands of patients improve their outcomes, not just by treating symptoms, but by getting to the root causes. She currently serves as the Director of Clinical Research for the Colorado Parkinson Foundation, where she's led groundbreaking studies exploring how ketogenic nutrition and metabolic therapies can support brain health in patients with Parkinson's diseases and other neurodegenerative conditions. Try saying that 3 times fast. She also chairs the Research Academy at the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, helping other clinicians learn how to conduct meaningful, life-changing research, which is pretty amazing. And today she is sharing some truly eye-opening insights on what's actually happening in the brain during chronic illness, how metabolic health plays a critical role, and what you can start doing right now to protect and support your brain for the long haul. This is such an important conversation, especially if you are worried about aging well or protecting your cognitive health, or if you know anyone who is struggling with any sort of neurodegenerative condition, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. There's a lot to get from this conversation, so let's dive right in. Dr. Tidman, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to talk to you about this topic today.
Well, it's wonderful to meet you, Ruth, and to be on your program. And I love talking about this research in Parkinson's and other things that I'm doing. So thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm just going to start with the question that I ask everybody who comes on the podcast, but let's just hear the overview of who you are, what you do, and how you got to be doing what you are now.
Okay, thanks so much. Well, I believe everyone is kind of born with a mission. I knew that I wanted to help people with their health since I was 6 years old. So I feel very privileged that for 45 years, I've been an occupational therapist working mostly in neurological and neurodegenerative disease and neurosurgery intensive care, starting in newborns clear through my oldest patient was 105. And through that journey, I just developed such a love for patients and just being able to help them however I could. Well, then I ended up being a patient. You know, there's nothing better, in some ways harder, for a medical professional than to become a patient and to see what the other side of that feels like. So I went on after my occupational therapy degree to get a master's degree in educational psychology, really looking at the mental health needs of my patients, and then decided I wanted to do research. So I got a doctoral degree in health science and that was kind of my educational journey. Well, in 2013, after a lifetime of really being very health conscious, I was mostly a vegetarian, ate very little, if ever, red meat. I exercised. I got sicker and sicker and sicker. And in 2013, had developed some rather severe symptoms. And I'm really thankful for this, even though it was kind of the darkest time of my life. I got to experience what my poor patients experience. Going
Mm.
from specialist to specialist to specialist, nobody could tell me what was wrong. And my symptoms were just getting worse and worse. And I was on 5 major medications, and I had a heart condition, and you name it, it was there. And I ended up at Mayo Clinic, where they found a small brain tumor at Mayo Clinic, but then they said, look at your diet, investigate your diet. So I came home and I delved deep into all of the neurological research, which I had worked in neurology, neurosurgery for years. And then I really felt like I was led to the first low carb summit in South Africa, where the research they presented was just this eye-opening experience for me. And so, being the type A individual I came home, I downloaded like 1,200 studies, I read studies. I just said, okay, I've been mostly pseudo-vegetarian for years. I'm going to swing in the other direction. And
Relate to that.
oh, yeah. I mean, that's just how I do life, right? And so within a month, my symptoms were gone. Within 6 months, I was off my medications. And within a year, I had no brain tumor. I had no medical conditions. I was on no meds. I was lifting heavy, powerlifting. I was teaching aerobic dance classes, which I still do that. And it was just one of those miracles that I feel very privileged that I got to experience. And then right after that, I think it was just within, just a few weeks. My mother's neighbor was on the board of the Colorado Parkinson Foundation, and we were talking, and she knew through my mother that I had had all these medical conditions. I was just not in a good place. And then we started talking. I said, well, they're all gone, and I'm on no meds, and the conditions they said couldn't be cured are gone, and this is how I did it. And she and the board at the Colorado Parkinson Foundation said, we need help with our health. We're all just declining. Well, several of them go on a full-blown ketogenic approach. They're getting better. They're getting off meds. They're starting to do just their life, the quality of their life just changed. And so the board at CPF contacted me and said, we want you to do research in Parkinson's using ketogenics, and how much money do you need? And from 2018 till the present, I have been conducting clinical studies for the Colorado Parkinson's Foundation using this approach. Just an amazing group of people, an incredible mission that they have to give their patients alternatives or adjunctive treatments to the medications they're on. Simultaneously, a student of mine, a doctoral student, joined my research team, she and her husband, and they're still on my research team, Dr. Dawn White, Dr. Tim White. And we are recruiting for our 6th study right now. We have 5 published studies. And of course, Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, can't say enough about that organization. Another open door for me, because metabolic health is really what I do.
Right.
And so I have been working with that organization and running a small telehealth practice that I do as a volunteer. And It's all just so exciting. I teach university students for 3 universities. And then I volunteer teaching aerobic dance classes and powerlifting classes to seniors. So I
You're
have too
like a
much to do.
powerhouse.
Oh, I tell you, I got way too much to do. Well, I feel like in 2013, I was given a second chance, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to waste this chance to serve, which is what I really feel led to do. So thank you
Yeah.
for letting me share my story.
That's amazing. That's an incredible story. And so I'm
Yeah.
so interested in this. I shared with you right before we started recording that a close friend of our family's it has Parkinson's. And so this is definitely a topic that we've talked a lot, and they're very close friends. So we talk to them a lot about things and
Hmm.
treatments and what they're trying. And it's a devastating disease to
It
watch,
is.
and to have someone close to you um struggling with that. And so I'm so curious with this foundation that you're with. They seem so open to
Right.
ketogenic metabolic health. Like there's so much. I mean, and I talk about all of this stuff all the time on this podcast, right? We talk a lot about
Uh-huh.
low carb and the benefits and all the things from just a general health perspective, a weight loss perspective. So we don't need to go into all those details of what that is. But what I think the part that really strikes me is that is how much research you're doing on that topic, and the acceptance that you're getting from it, because the
Mhm.
medical community as a whole is not very accepting to the idea that metabolic health is the foundation of health in general, right? Like it's
Right.
meds. We're going to go to pharmaceuticals. It's all like if they can't patent it and make money off of it, they are not interested
Right.
in talking about it. So
That's
how
right.
do you get around all of that? And how have you managed to like really do all this research? And why are people not shouting it from the rooftops either?
That is such a great question. And I find it's really fascinating to me. I find there's such a disconnect between food and health. I don't get it because it is our fuel. And we know from pediatric development, I was a pediatric therapist for a number of years, that babies need to have just this incredible surge in neurodevelopment and organ system development and bone development and all of that. Well, the good Lord knew we needed to be born with good fat sources to grow our brains and protect them. So, guess what? Babies are in ketosis when they're born, and they stay in ketosis if they're breastfed primarily. And so, working in pediatric development and then segueing into neurodegenerative diseases, it was just an easy transition to see, well, biochemically, this makes a lot of sense for the brain. The problem in Parkinson's is the meds help a little. They primarily are used to try to manage the motor symptoms. But
Mm-hmm.
there are so many other symptoms to Parkinson's than motor. In
Yeah.
fact, I think it's the non motor symptoms that interfere with quality of life almost more than the motor symptoms do. And the meds don't touch that.
Yeah. Can you
That's
talk about some of those?
sure. So, because of the problem with dopamine production in the brain, dopamine, I call it our feel good neurochemical. It's the one that motivates us, it's the one that, you know, gives us more emotional stability. It gives us kind of that pleasure response. Well, it's very downregulated in Parkinson's. So, a large majority of patients with Parkinson's have depression or will develop it, have anxiety or will develop it, have cognitive issues, memory issues. They have apathy, huge apathy. They just don't feel like initiating anything. They also have mountains of fatigue It's like walking around with a huge boulder on your shoulders all the time for them. They have sleep dysregulation. Dopamine is a huge regulator of our sleep and circadian rhythms and brain rhythms and REM rhythms. And then our sleep quality, our sleepiness during the day, that's very debilitating. Then, with the tremor, they don't want to be in public in social settings. If you can appreciate that, most of our social lives are developed around food, right? So we're going out to eat, and they don't want to do that because many of them, the tremor's so bad, they can't keep the food on their fork. They can't drink, it ends up all over them. Many of them have swallowing and chewing problems. It's very debilitating, very socially isolating, which feeds that depression. Simultaneously, with dopamine not being very well regulated, they have a huge sugar and processed carbohydrate addiction because the brain is dysregulating that glucose anyway.
Yes.
So it's almost like they feel like they have to get it in. The brain is craving something.
Right.
And
And
so for many,
sugar will
yes,
trigger a dopamine response. That I'd never put that
absolutely.
together before. But yeah, that makes
Absolutely.
absolute sense. And all of the food
Right.
science that are engineering all the food to release dopamine, that makes
Right.
absolute sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So many of my patients with Parkinson's come to me with full blown diabetes that they've had for years because they just can't regulate their glucose. They're very insulin resistant. Many of them, it's like a comorbidity that I see all the time, have metabolic syndrome. They have high blood pressure. They're overweight or obese. Their glucose is dysregulated. Their HDL, the good guys, are very low. So they have both things, and I believe and have studied that metabolic syndrome really affects their Parkinson's symptoms in a very detrimental way. So if you can make them metabolically healthier, you can start influencing those symptoms in Parkinson's as well, which makes sense. Inflammation, everything. So,
Yeah. So can
yeah,
you talk about that a little bit more about what this
yes,
you've done now five published studies and you're working on the sixth.
right,
So
yes.
what have your studies shown and indicated, or I don't know what the term is, but
No, that's absolutely it.
okay.
What have they indicated? Because we know that studies show trends, they help you generate hypotheses. It's rare that a study will prove anything, but you use studies to build new studies. And I can say that I am honored and privileged to stand on the shoulders of former research that's being done in this space. Dr. Matthew Phillips in New Zealand is one of my, I'm kind of like a fangirl. He's one of my idols. I think he's just phenomenal in his application of low carb approaches and fasting approaches in Parkinson's and other diseases. And then Dr. Stephen Cunane's work in Canada on the use of blood ketones and its effect on not only memory and cognition, but protection, neuroprotection, especially in Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So I get to stand on his research. And then Dom D'Agostino's group and the research they're doing with NASA in terms of blood ketones and their protective qualities to prevent seizures in Navy SEALs and astronauts in high oxygen environments. I mean, there's so much out there that I get the privilege of basing my studies on. So I have published a 12-week study that's 3 months and a 24-week study that's 6 months on using this approach in Parkinson's, primarily for symptoms of Parkinson's, anxiety, and depression. And of course, in all my studies, being a metabolic health practitioner, I'm looking at metabolic markers, your
Hmm.
glucose and your fasting insulin and your triglycerides and, your inflammatory markers, which frequently in my folks are way off the charts.
Hmm.
The brain is exquisitely sensitive to inflammation. It's very protective of itself. And if you have systemic inflammation from one of these metabolic conditions, you're going to really tax your brain in terms of its ability to protect those delicate neuronal pathways and networks. So, 12 and 24-week studies both showed a significant reduction in depression and anxiety
Wow.
and significant improvements in all health biomarkers across the board. Now, as a researcher, I expect, well, maybe one variable will improve or maybe two. I didn't expect like all eight to
Yeah.
improve in those studies, and they did. One of the most significant ones that illustrates this metabolic health foundation for declines in Parkinson's was a gentleman case study I published who was morbidly obese, well over 300 pounds, had all the markers for metabolic syndrome, high blood pressure, and he was diabetic, and his HDL was very low, high waist circumference. And then, addition to that, he was basically bedridden on many medications for pain, for depression, for anxiety, for his blood sugar, you name it, he was on it. Long story short, he started my study bedridden and diabetic and 300 pounds. Ended my study 24 weeks later, walking around his neighborhood, working out at a local gym. He'd lost over 60 pounds and returned
Wow.
all of his biomarkers to normal
Wow.
and was off all or most of his medications. Now,
That's
that's
incredible.
powerful. It
That's
is. It
powerful.
is. It
Yeah.
was. So you just, the connection between food and health, we've got to break through the bias that food's not that powerful because it
Yes.
really is.
It's everything. I mean, it really, really, truly is. So do you find now you've done two of these studies at the 12-week and the 24-week, do you find that the people that you're working with end up seeing such significant results that they continue even beyond the study? Like, is it almost a no-brainer for them, or do they kind of slip off? What have you found? Do you follow up?
That's such a great question. And it's amazing to me when they fall off, especially after the benefits that they've seen. But I'll tell you why that is.
Mm,
It's this poor dopamine regulation and our toxic food environment.
hmm.
So, one of the problems that my patients find is yeah, they're seeing benefits, they're getting off their meds, they're able to function, but their family, their friends, their social environments, our food environments are so um, detrimental to their maintenance of
Yes.
this approach.
Yes.
Some of them
I,
stay on it and they're on it and they're convinced and they'll
and they're
never
good.
change.
Yeah.
And others, they just and I've experienced it myself. Of
Yeah.
course, I'm the type of personality that, hey,
Doesn't care.
it yeah, it brought me back from a place that I don't want to go back to.
Right.
I mean, I'm getting to live the life now that I always wanted, that I'm not going to go back to where I would try to work out and end up in bed
Right.
because I couldn't hardly move. And I'm not going to go back to where I was having these seizure like activities and ending up unconscious on the floor. And I'm not going to go back to being on CPAP for 8 years with severe sleep apnea, which I hated. I never
Yeah.
felt like I slept great with it. I'm not going back there.
Right.
I was 40 pounds heavier. I had high blood pressure and 3 heart meds. why? That's insane to want to go back to that kind of life. But I
Right.
recognize that a lot of my patients do have food addictions, and I'm going to call them addictions because that's what they are. They are a biochemical addiction.
Yes.
Th-
Yes.
That, if,
And then on
yeah,
top of that, there's the social factor like you were talking
right,
about, that if you
right.
don't have that support and you don't have people in your life, it's so easy to, I mean, I would say I eat this way, the bulk of the time, and I control a
Hmm.
lot of it, but there are times where you're just kind of, you have to go with the flow or whatever, and it's easy to fall off, or to, and if you don't have that constant reminder and constant support, and I
Right,
get, because I see this all the time in my program, right? People will
right,
will say, "Oh, I listened to your podcast and I follow you on Instagram, and I kind of get what and I'm doing it. I can do it on my own." And I think, yeah, you can. Like, what I talk about is actually not that complicated. You are
right,
getting rid of sugar, you're getting rid of processed foods, and you're eating more protein and more fat, right? More healthy fat. Like,
right,
I can say it in 2 sentences what you need to do, but knowing it in your head and actually implementing it in your life, those are the two different things. That's where a lot of
right.
times, and everybody's different. You're the kind of person who was able to like do it, stick with it, and be like, this is how I live now. No
That's
problem.
right.
Not everybody
Yeah,
has that
right,
personality ability to kind
right,
of fight the, because it's not what the rest of the world is doing. And so if you need that support, like, don't be ashamed of that. Find your
right.
community, find the people that are going to help keep you on track, and find the thing that's going to help you stay on track so that you can be successful, because it does get easier the longer you do it, the more it becomes that's habit. And that's just, I mean, I can't walk through the grocery store without and look at a wall full of breakfast cereal and not think, poison, who would eat this, right? Like, i
I,
don't i
I
don't even get it.
know.
There's not a world in which that enters my mouth, but that doesn't mean that
Right,
I'm 100% perfect all the time either, and
right,
it didn't happen overnight. But
right.
yeah, it makes me sad for people to experience the amazing results and then fall off and slide off, and
Yeah.
wonder, how do
So
you.
I know it. So I just got just this morning, got an email from a former patient that I've worked with over the years. And uh, I call her my magical disappearing patient. So she'll come and we'll work together, and she's doing amazing. When we worked together, started working together 2 years ago, she totally embraced the lifestyle. She went from having diabetes to no longer having diabetes, having severe fibromyalgia to no longer having severe IBS that she had suffered from for years to no longer. She had lost all this weight. Her blood pressure was perfect. She had started hiking and biking. You name it, she was doing it. Her blood markers were perfect. And then she went away and disappeared, and I hadn't heard from her until this morning. And she said, "Oh my gosh, I agonized about emailing you. I am back to where I was 2 years ago. I totally went off everything." She said, "But my husband was telling me that you don't need to eat Dr. Tidman's diet, it's very unhealthy." And I said, "Okay, unhealthy. You cured your diabetes and your IBS and your fibromyalgia and your high blood pressure, and you went from sitting on the couch to hiking and biking, and your blood markers were fine, and it was unhealthy." I said to her, "You know what you need to do."
Yeah.
And she emailed back and said, "You are absolutely right. And I do know what I need to do. And thank you, and I said, "You know what? This is what I tell my patients all the time. Don't do this to please me,
Right.
but also don't get off what works for you to please somebody else. It is not
Mm,
about you pleasing others. It's about you valuing the life, the
yeah.
incredible gift of life that you have been granted." And I believe taking care of this wonderful vessel that you've been given to meet your calling in life, because we all have one. It may take us a while to find out what that is, but I feel like we all have to value our lives, ourselves, our health more than we value the opinions of others or pleasing others. So, and that's easier said than done. I get it. I really do. But support, you're right, Ruth. Support having people around you. I mean, I have friends that I've known for years that love to joke about how I eat. But they're in walkers and canes, and I'm 68. I love telling how old I am because I feel like at 68, I am in so much better shape than most of my friends who were 68, 70, whatever.
Yeah.
And I
You're
just
not
look at them
teaching
and
aerobics
go,
classes, that's for sure.
that's right. And the ladies in my classes are in their 70s and 80s, and we dance for a solid hour without stopping. Now,
That's amazing.
can these naysayers around me do that? No.
No,
Can they power lift? This morning I power lifted 80 pounds. Can
that's
they power lift? I just did my workout. So, um, but if one thing anybody hears from this interview, try to really think about, am I going to not do what's good for my health to please somebody else? Or should I value my health and my ability to be of service and to meet my calling on this earth by sticking to what works for me?
yeah.
That's so important.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's huge. It's everything. And I mean, when you
Right.
talk about all the things that this type of eating, basically creating metabolic health for you yourself, will fix almost everything that ails you. Like there
Right.
are very few things, especially in modern medicine, because we've all already figured out a cure for typhoid, right? Like whatever
Right.
people used to die from 150
Right.
years ago, we're not dying from those things anymore. We're dying from heart disease, we're dying from diabetes, we've got inflammation, we've got leaky gut syndrome. Everything that doesn't feel good in your body right now or is not
Right.
working in your body right now, it's almost all a result of this metabolic syndrome of not being metabolically
Right.
healthy. And so try it. Just what is the
Yeah.
worst that can happen? You can go back to
Right.
eating sugar at any time. You can go back to eating
Right.
crap at any time. But if you
Right.
don't feel good, there is no reason to not try this lifestyle because
That is the truth.
it's so that
It's really
is
so
my
easy.
what
Yeah.
did you say? What?
It's really so easy.
It's really so easy.
It
And you can
really
eat
is.
as much as you want. You don't have to count calories. You don't
Right.
have to be deprived. You could eat
Yep.
delicious food. And
Yep.
yeah, it really truly is. It's
I
reaching to the
really
fire.
blame, right. I really blame modern medicine on the shift from something which was the way we practiced medicine for hundreds of years.
Yes.
This approach, people are going, oh, it's such a fad and keto. No. The ketogenic approach has been around since the early Greeks. And, it's been used to handle disease consistently throughout history. The formalized ketogenic diet, which is not the internet keto you see, because the
No.
formalized ketogenic approach has been used in epilepsy. The first documented cases were 100 years ago. This
Yeah.
is not new. It's not a fad. It's biochemical. Another problem is that modern science, there are really two main theories of illness. The traditional one, the old theory, was that you got to fix the soil. You got to fix the environment for our cells. so that our cells don't mutate and develop, terrible things like cancer. So it's the soil, and then the other more modern, let's just say the current scientific medical approach
The
is the
big
seed
pharma,
theory. That
the big
is
pharma
the big
approach.
pharma. Right. Can we fix it with a med?
Yeah.
So let's fix it with a medication. If a medication can fix it, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
The tragedy is in oncology, especially, that's cancer care.
Mm-hmm.
They were using the ketogenic approach for decades and decades to augment any other treatments that they were doing for cancer. And we know that blood ketones floating through your bloodstream are toxic to cancer cells. They need glucose. In fact, your listeners will know if they've ever had a PET scan for cancer. What do they inject into your bloodstream? Glucose. Because cancer cells will wake up and go, pick me, I need it, I need it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we use sugar, if you will, to identify cancer cells, because they wake up and light up and I need it, so doesn't it make sense? I mean, this really isn't brain surgery, that if you weren't giving those cells any sugar, but you were giving them ketones, which are actually toxic to cancer cells, isn't that the approach we should move towards? Should we fix the soil? Should we fix the environment for our cells first? And how do we do that? Well, we eat the diet we've been created to eat.
Yes.
Back to where our great-grandparents were, who didn't have fruit all year round. Fruit was ripe in maybe September, October, maybe November. Why was that? Because the good Lord knew we needed to put on fat for the winter. What does fruit do? It puts on fat. No, fat doesn't make you fat. Sugar makes you fat. Yes. And they didn't have greens all year round. Well, I just planted my spinach here in New Mexico. And so, yeah, I'll have spinach until in New Mexico, I'll have it through to maybe late September. But our ancestors didn't eat, vegetables all year round either.
Right.
So what did they eat? Protein and fat. That's what they ate.
Yeah.
So
you lay it out so clearly and so no nonsense like that. It does make perfect sense, and it's so infuriating that we're in a system that is. I mean, you even talking about your own story, right? Going from specialist to specialist to specialist to specialist. Right. They all treat one little piece, give you a med for that thing, give you a med for that symptom, give you a med for that symptom. And there's no holistic approach. We're not dealing with the soil. We're just dealing with the branches. And it's like, why is this our world in 2025? This should not be how we are approaching it. So it doesn't crazy every time I have these conversations, because I think,
I know,
why are we in this? And yet we get called like the crazy extremists who are promoting a dangerous thing. Yeah. And I'm like, what? This is
I
crazy.
know.
This is crazy to
me. Yeah, they call us fringe or fad, right?
Yes. I'll take the fringe, baby. If that's what it takes, I'm on the fringe.
Exactly.
That's why we're health rebels around here. That's what we call ourselves.
That's right. Well, I have to tell you that there's hope on the horizon, because it seems like not a week goes by that I don't get a call from a friend or a friend of a friend or a friend of a friend of a friend who says, I just saw a cardiologist who told me I need to avoid carbs and just do meat and fat. And I went, oh my gosh, who is this?
Finally.
And just this morning, got a call. Friend's husband has had 2 heart attacks. He's needing more stents. He went in. Cardiologist said, well, I'm not going to do the stents. You need to change your diet. You need to avoid carbohydrates. You need to exercise. You need to go low carb. And I'm like, and she goes, that was a cardiologist. I said, since the American Academy of Cardiology has decided, this is a viable approach. The American Diabetes Association says, you want a fast way to get off your insulin? go low carb or ketogenic. I mean, it's building,
Coming.
and we're starting to see it more and more coming
Well, that's good
mainstream.
news. That's good
Yes,
news. I do have hope
yes,
for the future, and people got to keep
good.
speaking up. I am impressed. I know we have to go, but I am impressed from the part of your story where you said that the Mayo Clinic told you
Yeah,
to look at your diet, which I don't know
right,
if that's not necessarily an approach that most doctors and clinics are taking. So that gives me a little
right.
bit of hope too. And that was,
Well, it's
20 years ago,
interesting that the ketogenic diet was first researched at
the Mayo Clinic.
Mayo Clinic. So, the fact that I didn't know any of that research shows how indoctrinated I was into, low fat. I ate low fat for 30 years. I don't know. Avoided fat like the plague. And I was one of those snack wells people.
Oh yeah.
Okay, great. I can
Love
have my
those.
sweets, but they're low fat, right? Didn't matter that I was pre-diabetic, headed straight to diabetes. Didn't matter. But yeah, there is hope. And the current study I'm recruiting for, quick plug, is really testing three nutritional approaches in Parkinson's disease. I'm having them add in the first phase, they do their regular junky old whatever diet for 8 weeks, and I do some testing. Second phase, they do their regular junky old whatever diet, and they start adding MCT oil every day, trying to build those ketones in their bloodstream. It's a crossover trial, first one of this type ever done. And then the third phase, they're adding their MCT oil to a full-blown ketogenic diet. So,
Oh,
it's gonna be fabulous because crossover trials compare you, Ruth, to you through all three approaches.
right.
And I'm excited about the approaches, and I finished recruiting. I'm going to end recruitment in May 25. So hopefully
Okay.
get this data analyzed and published in 26. So
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm
yeah,
excited to hear all about it. And then this was just
yeah.
so fascinating. And
Thank
if
you.
people want to look into you more or look into the Colorado Parkinson Foundation, which
Uh-huh.
you represent, where can they find you? And we'll make sure to link in the show notes as well.
Wonderful. So, Colorado Parkinson Foundation, notice there's no S in Parkinson.
Parkinson.
It's co-parkinson.org. That's their website. When you go to their website, click on study at the top, and you will see every research presentation that I've done for them and the recruitment presentation for the current study. And of course, you can find my team, our 5 published studies, on the internet. They're all out there. They're all open access. So you can read them for yourself.
We'll see if we can
So
get those added to the show notes as well. The
that
links to
sounds
those.
great. Thank you for
Awesome.
having me. I've enjoyed our
Yeah.
chat.
This was fantastic, Melanie, or
Thank
Dr.
you.
Tidman, I should say. Thank you so
That's
much.
fine.
And
Yes.
yeah, just thank you for the work that you're doing and continue to do. It's so important. And I'm just
Thank
so
you.
grateful to you for being
Well,
here.
I am blessed to be able to do the work and to speak with people like you who are also out there fighting the good fight for health. And I appreciate what you do as well.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, that about does it for this episode. Remember that you will find the link to all the resources that we talked about, including the Colorado Parkinson Society website and the research studies and all the other things right in the show notes. Be sure to check that out. And again, if you know someone else who is worried about cognitive decline or chronic illness or Parkinson's disease, please be sure to send this episode their way. It might just change their life. Then be sure to subscribe to the podcast to be notified of future episodes, and I will see you back here for another new episode very soon.